So the first part was literally that it blipped through the low. So that was sort of giving you your first part of like, okay, there's a good chance that, you know, this could happen at this stage. The sheer volume change, which is the first part of noticing. So I started just, you know, selling small to begin with, understanding that this could either rotate back higher, and you can sort of understand the change of the volatility as well. I also had the previous gold contract up on the left, just because this day it rolled over to the next one. So they're both pretty much near enough the same sort of volume. So I was leaning on both, trying to see, because it was so thin either side, I didn't really know. I could have gone lent on this side due to the fact of this could have 100 lot somewhere, and this might not have had 100. Just using it for that sort of like protocol sort of thing. And at this point, I started to then try and understood that I've seen that sort of thing before with the bounce back, like squeezing everybody all the way back higher, which then you're then looking for a bit of sort of like at least some reloading on the offer, etc. Which pretty much that's what I was trying to do, trying to feed that in sort of the back, sort of near the 20s. But again, at this, I think also at this stage, and then watching these back, is that at this point your risk now, ideally your risk is back up here. So really you've got 15 ticks worth of risk at this stage. And then understanding the way that really then it breaks that sort of 1 minute candle is it should break that and just then keep going. And that's sort of pretty much the way I had sort of the idea, and I was trying to be a little bit more on the patient side, and probably now I probably would be a bit more aggressive by selling it a little bit higher, just again it gives you better prices to start with, and trying to just understanding that. And at this stage, my mouse will go both sides of the ladder, and to be honest, it still does, because you then start taking a bit more risk. And I'll explain through sort of the second time as well that I was trying to pretty much feed this. Well, I tried to feed this one in a bit, but really, again, I should be still letting this rotate all the way back up to the top side, even though having 5 on, I should still be letting this rotate. But at this point, it sort of got stuck below my price, which was quite, you know, nice. But it's really, I think you really got to understand where your risk is lying at each stage, because this is my massive issue currently. At the same time, when you're trying to add on size and you're trying to add more, you take in much more risk, but you're not actually wrong on the trade. And I've butchered so many trades throughout, you know, my time so far by doing that. Right, again, I shouldn't ever, if I go offside, I'd start getting out of something, which is sort of the wrong thing. But what you got was just such an offer in this part, which was so tight. You sort of risk in, you know, looking at it, it starts going back about 8s, 9s, 10s. You're probably okay on a price action perspective, but on the trade idea, you're not. And as you can see, it just icebergs pretty much, or just reloads, and you'll see the 40 lot each time. So what I was thinking about is trying to be as aggressive as sort of possible, as you can see, selling the lows pretty much every time. So I ended up with 7 at this stage, and I think you still have levels to the downside, and I believe that's why I still add once I start to go further on side at this stage. So at this point here, I felt this point I was pretty right. Once it starts to push you on side a little bit more, you don't really want to see it be coming back to the 9s, 10s, 11s. And then again, I was just selling the lows. And this is another problem of, you know, I've basically added in 10 times on this trade, whereas I could have just sold 4, 4, 4 or something like that along the lines, which is something, again, you got to then, over time, of trying to work out the execution of things, this, especially with me still currently, is not amazing whatsoever. So I was trying to then feed this in all the way down, instead of probably selling, you know, bigger size and at better prices, because I started selling 2s and I'm still at 1s. So my average price is a tick worse, but with 10 lots instead of 1. And you can see the complete change in how this has changed. I know some people wouldn't have seen how it was trading beforehand in the other days, but you can sort of see the sheer change of volume between sort of a breakout and it not breaking out. When it's doing that, you're sort of expecting it to sort of continue. You'll be very surprised if it sort of didn't. And again, this then becomes your little first challenging point, which I got better at the first challenging point, but at this point, when you're selling 10 and you've got out of 3, which is fine. You want to always scale something out. I feel you always want to try and scale something out, because the more size you have, the easier it is then to scale out something on the way down. If you're selling just a 1 lot from 01s, you're gone 50 ticks nearly on sign. You're watching it bounce quite regularly. Yes, your P&L is not going to change as much when the more you got, the more your P&L is going to fluctuate. Which again, I'll have it on the screen, which I don't have it on the screen anymore. It's not needed. But this is the first point of where you're stalling, which is, it's natural for the market to stall. It only came off for sort of 15 to 20 minutes in a sort of straight line. But I mean, you've run side 40, 50 ticks with 10. So covering half's not the end of the world, as long as you're then running the rest and you sort of all got this planned in your head on how you're going to get out the trade and how you're going to stay in the trade as much as possible, as long as possible. So you can be using whatever sort of things you can keep yourself in trades, whether it's just 1 minute candles every time. It can't take a high out, it just keeps going, moving average, or literally whatever it is. So at this point, come out of most of it, but then what you're looking for is that momentum to literally just keep going. And I did have an ambitious target on this, and I think that it was the next day it eventually got there. I think I had like a 200 tick target, and I'm obviously getting out after 50. Because again, I think sometimes it comes into your mind like you've got to bank something, But again, you're sort of in this period, you're still sort of learning the whole concept, and I don't think you can then start trading and then just hold everything to the moon, because your targets have got to be very specific, but you want to have the most high probability of ticks between there and there. That's where you think your first lot are. It doesn't matter if it's 20 ticks and it still does 100. If you take everything with that first 20, and you say you sell 5, you hold 4 there and 1, it's fine. Pretty much at this point, when it's sort of doing this sort of price action, there's just literally liquidating sort of down the pages, and the volume's all sustainable. There's not really any point, and I will put bids like that down the page a bit, just because the fact that, as you've seen the first time, it just blips down. So you want to sometimes get caught on that, and I've done it multiple times where I don't put them down and the market then blips 30 ticks and comes all the way back when you're playing something, or trying to play these little stab trades or whatever. You want to try and get flipped out, especially in the thinner markets, which is just a natural thing. And pretty much, and again, every single time I seem to stall, I'm always then getting out of something, which isn't really the right thing to do, because you could still be holding everything at this point. And again, it's just having that understanding of how you want to get out of the trade. You want to run the good size for a long period of time, and that's one. The one good thing I can do is I can hold it when I'm on side, but I'm not very good at holding it when I'm off side, which is, probably a normal sort of thing. But I do think once you learn to hold it off side, it's more acceptable, really. And in the end, that's pretty much it. After I did that this morning, just stuck it on record. I think, ran it down to something like down here, I think. But sort of the sheer volume change and everything like that, of mapping the whole time for 2 weeks, etc. You do notice the change, and it becomes like such a high conviction trade in the end. Hence why you want to put the size on. And the execution of this was not very good at all. It was bad. Even sort of when I show the next one, it's just going to be as poor. But it's just understanding how you want to take risk on throughout the whole time when you've got these conviction plays, because the constant mapping you've done for days and days and days, you notice change.